fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Back with another episode of the Blue Turf. We are at
the world famous Kansas City Soccer Dome.
Are they referring to that in emails now?
It's in the media notes for every week.
Yeah.
It absolutely says world famous Kansas City Soccer Dome. So
you've started.
Hey, this is the show that amplified it.
Absolutely. I think we need a cut.
We do.
This is Thad Bell from the KC Soccer Journal. With me, Eric Bergrud, as usual, the part of the broadcast team for the Comets, and pretty much involved in everything else.
In all my spare time. No, I'm great. It's March. It's the home stretch for the MASL season, and I know it feels like there's been a break, but we have a lot to discuss.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a break for the Comets. They actually had a week off, apparently, but 6 games left, right? 3 at home, 3 on the road. A little bit balanced, I think.
Trying to remember who. So they have Tacoma. Yeah, 2 in San Diego, 1 at Tacoma. Yeah.
And then who do they have here?
2 San Diego, 1 Baltimore. So, what's good about that is you ultimately control your own destiny. If you look at the teams that are near the top of the MASL standings, if you do what you're supposed to do and get 3 points, you gain 3, they lose 3. And that's ultimately what Comets fans should be looking at all the way through the month of March.
Yeah, but as we record this, Sockers are on top. The Ambush in second, the Wave in third, and the Comets in fourth. Baltimore in fifth.
Well, and to be fair, so San Diego has played 17 games. We're recording this on Thursday. They have a game at Empire. That's no guarantee because Empire has played them well this year. But after tonight, they'll be at 18. Ambush and Wave have played 19. The Comets and Blast and Strikers all at 18. And so you're trying to compare apples and apples where teams are. After this weekend, it'll be a little bit more balanced in terms of games played. But I say this on air all the time with Nick Vassos. The number one rule of MASL is you cannot count on other teams doing you any favors. And so if Comets fans were expecting, let's just say, for example, UCFC with Kelvin playing his 1 game this season, beating Milwaukee, if you counted on that,
right,
your hearts were crushed because that's not the way it works in this league. The teams that you're battling against somehow find a way to win, even though you're pushing or dreaming for upsets.
Yeah, you can't count on that. You got to control your own situation. And the Comets have dropped way too many points this year when they were in a position that they could have gotten more.
Well, right. And now we're at the point where everybody's talking about playoff position. We've been talking about playoff position just about every episode this year because the points you drop in December come back to bite you at the end of March. And where are we? And you could go back to that last game against the St. Louis Ambush where the Comets played them at home. They already had clinched the I-70 Cup, right?
Yep.
They struggled in that game, took it to overtime, took it to shootout, and lost in a shootout. That was 2 drop points at home, which if you do the math right now, where does that put you? And that's what got St. Louis's streak started. You could have basically crushed St. Louis right there, not just in the standings, but psychologically.
Yep.
That gave St. Louis the momentum to become what they are now, a second-place team.
Yeah, they've been on a really good streak for a while now, even though they've technically lost the last 2, I guess. But they were on a really hot streak there. Everybody was talking about maybe they were the class of the league all of a sudden, which,
If I had told you when we kicked off this season that we'd be in March and St. Louis would be in second place, you would have asked me to take a drug test, Dad.
Well, sometimes you do take weird positions, Eric, but
That would have been an extreme position.
we did not have them picked as being up that high. That's for darn sure. Although, who did we have in the last two places? Utica?
Utica for sure. We might have had Tacoma. I don't know if it was Tacoma or Empire. I think it was maybe Tacoma.
Yeah.
So,
But we thought Ambush would make the playoffs. We just thought they would be on the lower
we
end
thought
of it.
they'd barely squeak in. Yeah.
But as it stands now, 5 teams are within 3 points and 1 game up or down from the Comets right now. So it's a battle right now. Any team could finish first. Any team could finish fifth. I do think that the bottom 3 are probably not in huge competition unless the Strikers go on just one heck of a run.
Well, and let's talk about the Strikers first, since they play tonight. Then they play at St. Louis this weekend. These are must wins for them because they're starting to run out of opportunities to gain points. I guess they must have been done at the world famous Kansas City Soccer Dome. The horn went off. Nobody was on the field. So
I was just hoping they weren't telling us we were out of time.
yeah, that would be pretty funny. And so they're going to be pressured to get results coming through. And then you look at the Comets' opponent, Tacoma. They've been exceptional at home, tragic on the road. We experienced some of that at Cable Dom Arena. This is a huge game for Tacoma, too, if they want to have any chance of making the playoffs this year.
It's definite must win for. Everything is a must win.
Well, I guess it depends on your perspective. If you're in a fifth, if you're like in the 6th or 7th seed, like those two teams are, yeah, everything's a must win. If you're a Comets fan right now and you're in 4th place, what do you want? If you want to just barely make it into the playoffs, sure, lose some games, squeak in at 6th, then go for it. But if you want momentum, and ideally you want a first round bye with a 1 or a 2 seed, you're going to have to win out. You may not have to get 3 points in every game, but absolutely when you're playing San Diego, you need to get a result in every game, one way or the other.
Right. Well, let's come back and talk about Tacoma in a minute here, because that's where they're going to play tomorrow. We're getting this in right the day before. We usually try to get a couple days to get a little more time out there, but life gets in the way. Last game, Utica, kind of expected that to be a little bit. They got the win. Expected it to be a little bit easier of a win, maybe.
You might have. I actually didn't. I wasn't surprised. I was talking with UCFC players coming off the bus. So they had played in St. Louis the night before. They got shut out, which is pretty rare, right? They not just shut out like 3-0 or 3-0, 13, right? So I mean, it was bad, but ultimately they come to Kansas City with nothing to lose. And players playing in fear for their positions, which sometimes is a good thing. Kansas City was flat.
Yep.
UCFC was loose. And so you take the 3 points, but that's about all you take out of that. You can't play like that and win a championship against better teams in this league.
My problem with the Comets, though, is they've felt flat for a few games. Like, they have not had their best game in any of those.
Yeah.
And they might have got points, they might have got results, they might have got wins, but they haven't been what the Comets should be.
Yeah. Well, and I was, they've got Tacoma coming up tomorrow night. I called the game up there last year, right around this time of year, and it's a difficult place to play in. So if Comets fans think, oh, Comets are in 4th place, Tacoma's outside the playoff, bottom line should be 3 points. Should be 3 points is a big question mark, because Tacoma has made all sorts of moves the last couple of weeks to shore up their roster with the hope that they just qualify for the playoffs.
In that game against Utica, and the last few before that, it just doesn't feel like the defense, the mid, has been what it should be. I mean, I think the keepers have been, Phillip, for the most part, has been good. I think the forwards have done some good. They've scored fairly decently. I mean, you score over 5 goals, they think that should be a win. And it was, again, this last game, but too tight. And where is that going wrong?
Yeah, I don't know that it's so easy that you can point to one thing. Let me just offer a hypothesis, which you and the listeners can take or leave. there's been consistency up front. So other than a few games missed early in the season, more Rion Marquez than we've seen in recent years. And he does have a shot at getting MVP. Zach Reggett, healthier than he was last year, and he's been scoring points. Dom Francis quietly has been scoring a lot of goals, including the game-tying goal against San Diego with 2 seconds left. So they're getting a lot of offensive production. There's been so many lineup changes in the midfield. I just sense that that's where the inconsistency is. It feels like every game there's some different moving of the parts there. And in the run they made a couple years ago where they made it to the championship, it was a fairly consistent, if not the first 16, let's just say the first 18. There have been a lot of moving parts in that midfield. And so some players, you haven't seen them for a while and they show up. Some players have vanished that you would expect to be there. And how do you get consistency there? Because you can point to the defense and say, oh, it's the defense's fault they're giving up too many goals. But my major problem with that theory is Comets routinely get killed on transition. Transition doesn't start in defense. Transition starts or escalates in the midfield.
Fair enough. Do you think the difference in the lineup, the rotation, has it been injuries? Has it been coach's choice? Has it been who's in form?
I was waiting for you to say. I'll be talking to Coach Leonard to ask him that question. Probably a combination. So Lucas Souza has been battling injuries the last few years. We haven't seen as much of him as we would like because he's absolutely one of the veterans there. Christian Andreas, we haven't seen for a few games. David Stankovic, who was my pick for newcomer of the year, he's been in the lineup, out of the lineup. Yep. So it's been a squad rotation in the midfield. I think defense has been a little bit more consistent in terms of who's playing, except when somebody's on penalty minutes. But if you look from each of the lines, I would say goalkeeper good, but Philip Ejimadu knows he could have even had a better year and still has the opportunity on the home stretch. I think the defense has been fine, but probably needs to step a little bit more. The goal scoring's there. My question mark is the midfield.
Yeah, just looking at the overall standings, the Comets have given up 108 goals. The Waves given up 116, but they've scored 10 more also, so they're a little bit there. But they've given up 108 goals, and that's of the top 5 teams, top 6 teams, that's the second most. That's, again, it's not all in the defense. It's not all in the mid. It's a team game. Everybody has to defend. But that's a little bit more than you would expect from this team.
Especially from a team coached by somebody who prides defense first, right? And so there are a lot of people on this team who want to score goals, but ultimately the way you win championships is through team defense. And so how they get that balance right on this home stretch is going to be critical.
Yeah, I mean, you can win games by scoring 12 goals and giving up 11, but you can't count on that as you keep playing the better teams, right? Which, again, is why I criticized the last Utica game. They should not have given up that many goals against a team that had played the night before, regardless of how loose they were or how much they didn't care. Plus a goalie who wasn't even on the team before Friday, right?
And been playing M2.
Yeah. Great guy.
Yeah.
From what I understand, played really well that night.
He did.
But he played Friday night. He's I think with Des Moines. He played Friday night in Wichita, played Saturday night in St. Louis, played Sunday, not even 24 hours later, in Kansas City. So that guy got a lot of miles and a lot of shots at him in three days.
And he kept UCFC in that game, didn't he?
Yeah. Last name House.
Heine House.
What?
Yeah, Heine House.
That's really?
That's the Portuguese-Brazilian pronunciation. Cool. We covered this. So what's funny is he has a history against Kansas City. Not only did he play in the MASL, but he played for the Omaha Kings in that legendary exhibition game that Kansas City lost to them. And so I had asked him for his pronunciation, the way he wanted to be pronounced. And so he sent me an audio clip, Heine House.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Kudos to him, man. He needs to catch on a full MASL team if he wants to.
I always thought he was that quality, and he's good. And sometimes in life, you just need a chance and situation to go for you. There are a lot of good players out there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wish Utica on him, but I wish a good job on him.
Absolutely.
Was that a slam on Utica?
No, but they've got their own issues in terms of if you look at, we'll talk a little bit about Tacoma's roster changes. UCFC cleared house, and I think, no pun intended, get it, cleared house?
Yeah.
They have moved on from Everton. It looks like they've moved on from futsal-style players, because if you look at the players they unloaded, those weren't the old-school UCFC guys from New York who were like the local guys, kind of old-school St. Louis style, go local. They got rid of players who were U.S. futsal team quality, et cetera. And so I think they're setting a tone that there's going to be a new UCFC, maybe a new old UCFC lineup next season.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was that or just clearing cap and getting some money kind of thing. So not really cap.
I think it's more of, here's the culture we want, here's the attitude we want, and I would expect to see more local guys on that roster next year.
You think Tommy will be coaching them full time?
My source tells me no. My source, I've got I think a pretty good source. I think you're going to look at coaches there who have MASL playing experience coming in.
All right. Let's take a quick break. Okay, we're back. I don't know if you heard towards the end of the first segment that players were back on the field. The horn did sound earlier when nobody was there, which was kind of fun. It all went into the little practice area, and now there's a dozen or so of them out there. Don't want to give away any secrets, or do I, Coach? But anyway, there's a bunch of them out there getting ready to do something. Now, coming up, we kept talking about Tacoma. I was trying to keep it to the second segment. Tacoma has made a bunch of changes. Can you run them down?
Yeah, in no particular order. They made a trade with Empire to bring Clayson DeLima in goal, which I thought was interesting for a couple of different reasons. So DeLima, some of our listeners might recall, during the COVID year, he was goalkeeper of the year for what was then the Ontario Fury. Had visa problems, so he's been in and out of the lineup. He basically is a starting goalkeeper without a chance to be the starter in Empire. And so what the rotation of goalkeepers in Tacoma is going to be will be interesting. They brought back two players who, I don't know that they necessarily retired, but they stopped playing. So Matt Brame and Alessandro Canale. So somebody in the back, somebody up front. And then they brought in both Tayus, Frank and Uzi. And we were talking offline before we got started that I was a bit surprised that Tacoma didn't sign Frank Tayu at the beginning of the season. Because if you looked at the holes that team had, obviously they lost Chris Toth, but they lost Nick Pereira, and they lost a chunk of their scoring when Pereira went to San Diego. I thought for sure they'd be like, okay, we've got to be the next team to sign Tayu, and it didn't happen. So what surprised me more was the timing of it than the actual move.
Yeah, I would have expected it to happen earlier in the year, but it's those two keep turning up no matter what, don't they?
Well, what do you do? This is kind of like this past couple weeks has reminded me of the NHL more than any I can remember. In the NHL, you're used to teams moving players at the trade deadline, right? You've got teams that are out of playoff position, unloading players. You've got teams who are in playoff position trying to win the Stanley Cup, making moves, right? You've got San Diego getting Milton Andrade from UCFC, a team that's pretty stacked. They've been dealing with the injury bug, but you had Milton Andrade there with what they've got. That's a team that wants to win the championship. Tacoma is like, okay, what can we do? Because we think we could make a run here at the end. Problem with Tacoma is they're running out of home games. So one way or the other, they're going to have to figure out a way to win on the road if they want to make the playoffs. And they got smoked in San Diego last weekend with part of these pieces in the lineup.
So when you add that many players at, what is the trade deadline?
Last week.
It was last week. Okay. I was trying to make sure it wasn't still open. When you make that many moves, it's hard sometimes to have that consistency, but when you have a team that's already struggling, it's a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other kind of thing, right?
When they've had some minor injury problems too, up front and in the back. So I think they calculated we have nothing to lose there. Frank had been playing for Sonora and M2, so he's in playing shape.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's been sitting on a beach for the last 6 months and all of a sudden got the phone call. And so it's really more of a how long does it take to adapt at this point of the season. And we mentioned earlier NHL. This happens a lot in the NHL, just not to the extreme that we've seen Tacoma move in players so late.
Yeah. Any idea how many teams the Tayus have played on?
Well, I'm sure that if Brian Holland, the professor, is listening to this, he'll ping one of us. And it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's absolutely a lot. Frank's sort of like the Kai Kamara of MASL in terms of the number of teams he's played on. Some of them no longer exist or don't exist at the MASL level.
With the comparison to the number of teams, I think he's passed Kai by percentage-wise.
Right.
But not Kansas City.
Right. Hasn't ever played here. Yeah. Well, has never played for the Comets.
Right.
They've played here plenty of times for other teams.
What do we think the Comets need to do they got 6 games left, like we mentioned earlier, 3 on the road, 3 at home. They need to get some consistency in form. They need to get more in form. What do you think else? I mean, how do we describe this? What do they need to do?
Team defense. They need to be more mindful of the counterattack, the transition game, and particularly since they have San Diego 4 more times, a lot of game film of that first game against San Diego. I thought one of the brilliant things that Phil Salvaggio did was every time Kansas City started the power play, San Diego pressed them.
Yep.
And really not only took time off the clock, but took momentum out of the power play unit that way. And so how are you going to game plan against what San Diego showed you? Because you're getting them to Tacoma this week, next week, home and away, Saturday, Sunday. There's going to be some tired legs on Sunday. So what are you going to do? 2 games in a row against them. Then you got Baltimore nipping at your heels. And then you go back the last weekend, Friday here, Saturday in San Diego. It's going to be results. And the other thing I think that you have to watch for, we saw a little chippiness already in that first game.
Yeah.
You can we saw Tavoy Morgan get red carded. He's going to be back next weekend to play both games against Kansas City, unless coach's choice he doesn't. How do you rise above some of the physicality? Let me be clear. The Comets do not shy away from physicality and have a reputation around the league. If you believe all the whining from other fans across the league, they're the dirtiest team in the league. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But they don't shy away from it. But you have to be smart and not pick up stupid 2-minute penalties or 5-minute yellow cards and put your team in a position where a close game goes the other team's way.
It is funny how players get red card. The suspension seems to go just the amount of time to come back and play against the team.
Well, hey, it's just sort of the way the schedule works.
No,
out too.
I know. It's not a conspiracy theory, but it is just kind of funny.
Yeah, and so San Diego's also going to have to figure out mentally, what do we do differently against Kansas City? Because obviously they lost their heads too. When you have 2 teams battling for playoff position and playing each other 4 times in 1 month, weird things could happen.
Do you think either team wanted that schedule to be where they would play each other so much right at the end?
No. Why would you? I mean, other than you could argue, we'll be playoff tested, but how many people are going to be destroyed in the process?
Right. I mean, you could lose 3 of those 4 and drop a lot of spots. I'm not saying you couldn't have done it earlier in the year, and now that mentality is different for the playoffs.
Right. So Joseph Reyna from MASL, friend of the broadcast or the podcast,
shout out to Joseph.
Yeah, shout out to Joseph. So he posted Wednesday, let's just call it his scenario for the playoffs in terms of where the teams are right now, the maximum number of points they could get if they ran the table, but where realistically they're going to end. So the Comets have huge upside in terms of if they run the table, they're going to get a first-round bye. That's a big if, and that's winning 3 points in every game, right? But based on recent performance, they slide down to a 5th place. And so it's ultimately going to be that team deciding mentally and then going out on the field, are we a 2nd place team, outside chance at first, or are we a 5th place team? A few things have to happen for them to slide to 6th, but you get past Tacoma, right? Every game is against an opponent looking for playoff position.
Yep.
So you hold your own destiny in your hands.
I don't know if I'm going to put you in a bad spot here, but gut feel, where do they finish?
I'm an optimist. I'd say if they play well, so if they run the table at home, and what I mean by running the table, no overtimes, right? That means 3 regular season wins, and they can get some kind of result in San Diego, you could be looking at 3rd place, maybe 2nd. If you run the table, you're probably looking at 2nd place, right? But I could also see bad things happening that they slide down. Let's just run it in the middle. Let's just say 3rd place.
Fair enough. I want to see how they play in Tacoma before I would make any more predictions, because
Wait a minute, you bailed yourself out there.
I know. Right? I told you I was going to put you on a bit of a spot. But if you're going to put me back on that bit of a spot, I'm going to say 4th.
And I think
would
that's
like to say
probably a
better.
little more realistic. Again, you can't count on other teams helping you on the scoreboard. So if the notion is, oh, hey, it's okay if we lose at Tacoma because the Ambush might lose at home to Empire, it's like, okay, good luck.
Yeah, I would have to go through and look at every single who's playing who, when kind of thing right now.
Baltimore's playing UCFC. There's no Kelvin in this game, and it's at the Towson University campus. So they're at CQ Arena, small field. Yes, UCFC won earlier that season, but that was sort of a different lineup too. I think Baltimore's looking good to get 3 points this weekend. You would give Ambush the odds-on favorite to beat Empire.
Yeah.
That's 3 points. So what are you going to do, Comets, in your chance? Granted, you're on the road. Those teams are at home.
If I had seen, because I've said in the first segment that they've not been in good form. They've not played well. They've not put a good game together for a while. They've gotten some points. They've gotten some results. But I felt like the game against UCFC last time was as bad as Sporting's game the day before at San Jose.
I think I heard you say that to me that night.
And I'm like, even though they got the win, it was as bad of a performance because what you have expected them to be able to do, right? I'm not saying they should have slaughtered UCFC 13-0, but if it had been a 6-2 game, I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. They're back in form, right? At least close to it. They didn't do that. Now we got to see if they are getting this back. Yes, there was a break. They had a little time to heal injuries, maybe clean up some things. But now they're going to go play Tacoma, who has been a little bit revitalized by the Tayus and others. So I got to see what they do. And I think then it's going to be a dogfight. If the Comets are in form, it's still a dogfight at best against San Diego. Stacked team, history, et cetera, et cetera. So if the Comets are at their best, it's still no guarantee they get 3 out of the 4. It's at best a 2 out of 4, probably.
I heard Commissioner Keith Tozer, it's going to be close to what he said, but he was asked to talk about what is it going to take in the final home stretch for your team to be successful. And it's something we've heard Brian Budzinski say, you need some luck, right? But for Tozer, it's goalkeeping. He said it, I didn't say it, but I think the pressure is going to be on Philip Edgiamato here to carry the team, because if things aren't necessarily going well in the midfield or the defense, he's the back line. And we've seen this year how goalkeepers can win games almost single-handedly. It doesn't work that way, but you're a goalkeeper and you make 20 saves, you've given your team a chance to win.
Yeah. If Philip has a chance to save it, it's probably saved. The problem is they've been giving up too many opportunities that you don't realistically expect a keeper to make that save.
Right.
If he does, it's spectacular, but they've just given up too many opportunities. All right, anything else we need to discuss?
No, maybe next episode I'll have a little bit more information to share about my series, MASL 10 for 10. We are in production. We have finished 7 interviews, 2 more being scheduled, and we're lining up the 10th guest. What I can tell you at this point is it's going to be very different than the first 2 seasons. The theme is on the cusp of World Cup 2026. Who are some major is a strong term. Who are some U.S. soccer personalities who have a background in indoor soccer? And so what we're attempting to do this year is theme indoor soccer with the growth of soccer in the U.S. and connecting it to World Cup 2026. So absolutely, this list is going to look very different. I can tell you there are no current MASL players, coaches, owners, broadcasters, anybody in this season's interview list.
Huh. Interesting. I bet I could guess a couple of them.
You might.
But Eric wouldn't even tell me before this because he didn't want me to accidentally slip. So if I said any names right now, it would be not with any knowledge, but I fear that people would interpret it that I did, so I'm not going to. Eric can tell you later if I have any accurate guesses.
Oh, yeah, I'll tell people later. I'll say, yeah, that was right.
So wait for those to come out. I have anticipation that they will be very good because Eric does a good job. Follow Joseph Reyna on his stuff. I did not see the one that came out on Wednesday, so I will go back and watch that. And what else?
Big game Friday, and then next weekend, it's critical.
Yep. So Comets fans, turn out. They will need your support, and hopefully the Comets get back in form, and we are out.
Attention passengers, we've now reached our destination. We hope you enjoyed the flight and have a nice day.